Hey everyone, sorry that the other video got cut out. I should have upgraded my Zoom account to go more than 40 minutes, but we are going to continue our conversation with Jason Longshore for about the 2023 Women's World Cup. So my apologies that the other video got cut off short, but here we go. All right. Hey, my apologies for the cut off. I mean, when I got Zoom initially, as a teacher, it's like, oh, the school district gave us like unlimited amount of time, and then of course we're all back in person, so I've not used Zoom in a long time, and so I guess the subscription for unlimited time expired, so I'm like limited to 40 minutes, which I did not know. So my apologies for that.
No worries.
Okay, so we were in Group G: Sweden, South Africa, Italy, Argentina. So let's kind of pick up from there. So yeah, Sweden expect to win, but second place is a mystery toss-up. So what were your thoughts?
I think Argentina gets second. I like Estefania Banini. I think she's a very, very talented player. Kind of a local connection as well with Argentina. Chiara Cingarella played for Kennesaw State last year. She's transferring to Alabama, which is a big move up for her. She had some injuries last season in freshman year. She's on the roster. She's also one of the rare players who is on a national team, or at least has been at a young age, in two different sports. She was on the handball national team, youth national team for Argentina. So really talented athlete. Love to see her get on the field. Haven't seen her play at Kennesaw, but Argentina, I think, is just a little bit better going forward than Italy, and South Africa will be the biggest unknown. Can they compete with Italy and Argentina? Second place is up for grabs. It's open if they can steal a win off of one of them, but I think Argentina is going to be a little more battle tested and a little bit better getting forward.
And I think also with Italy, they seem to have kind of gotten their stuff together as far as trying to build a domestic league for the women's side. So I think I expect Italy in the next decade or so to kind of climb up as far as their talent and overall level, as long as they continue building up their domestic program.
They've got to invest in the youth. Yeah. Like, I think the biggest thing for Italy, I thought they'd be further along this cycle after a good last cycle with them at the World Cup. They haven't really progressed. If anything, maybe they've slid back. Sometimes that happens when you're new and you have a special generation that comes through and you don't have the next one ready. So that's the thing for them, is they just have to continue investing in youth development.
Yeah. And then with South Africa, I think I have to look at the roster again, but I know in the past that they've had like 2 or 3 players that has played in the U.S. as far as the NWSL. I'm not sure what their numbers are looking right now as far as their roster structure. But I mean, if for the South African women's team, if they were able to, send a few players to play in, better leagues, it does show that they do possess some talent that can, be a pipeline for other major leagues across the world. And I know that their coach Desiree Ellis has been kind of a huge advocate to try to secure funding for the program in South Africa, which is very admirable and remarkable. Let's just see how they could do. I could see South Africa maybe pulling a surprise against Italy, Argentina, despite being the lowest ranked team in the group.
Yeah, it's wide open enough to where it's definitely possible. I think Argentina and Italy are a step above, and they should show that in this tournament. And I think the thing about those two is I think where it's going to show is defensively, and typically you get teams that'll get to the stage of the tournament or qualify for the tournament for the first time, or they're young and they're still trying to figure it out. You might have a special player or two, but it's about defending that separates it. And I think Italy and Argentina, like, it's just part of their soccer cultures. They know when they have to hold on to a game. They know when they have to defend. They know when they have to put numbers behind the ball. They kind of embrace the defensive side of the game. And I think that's going to be a key and will probably secure, the tournament down to those two. The game between Italy and Argentina should be a really fun one to watch. Might not be a big high scoring game,
Yeah.
but I think it will be a very dramatic game because it should decide second place.
Uh, let's move into the final group. Group H. At least, well, on paper, it kind of seems like another group of life outside of Germany on paper being the favorite to win the group. But you also got Morocco making their debut in the Women's World Cup, and they're also the first Arabic team to play in the Women's World Cup after. Well, of course, it's probably been a good solid year for the Moroccan Federation with the men's side making it to the semifinals of the World Cup in Qatar last winter. You also got Colombia ranked 25th, and they're consistently one of the better South American teams in the women's game. And then you have South Korea, which on paper, which historically they haven't been the strongest Asian women's side, but they've kind of had a steady progress as far as looking at the results. Seems like Germany is a clear favorite despite having some hiccups against Zambia a few weeks ago. What is your take on this group?
Yeah, Germany should get through, but you hope that was a wake-up call for them in that game against Zambia, because that's one of the most shocking pre-tournament results that we've seen, men, women, anything. It definitely brings up questions about Germany. Alexandra Popp should be a Golden Boot contender. They should get through this group, no worries. Second place is what it comes down to. Morocco's the wild card, and we just don't know how they're going to compete at this level. It's just awesome that they qualified, being the first Arab nation to do it, and getting here, and just the progress of the game in that country, and being heroes for little girls who more girls are playing. The Federation is investing in girls getting the opportunity to develop into professional players. But it really comes down to South Korea and Colombia. And Colombia is a team that in a pre-tournament friendly against Ireland, the Irish walked off the field. They walked off the field after 20 minutes when Denise O'Sullivan was injured. They said the game was too physical and all that. I think that's good for Colombia. I think honestly that gives them an air of intimidation. And they're a physical team. They're not going to back out of challenges. They know how they can separate themselves. It's not on the athletic side. It's on the physical side. It's being tough to break down. It's being, maybe you can say too physical. You can say dirty, whatever you want to say. Like, I think Colombia's got that edge. And I think it will help them in this group to finish second. I think they finish second. I think Germany wins the group.
And then with whoever finishes second in Group H, they will have to presumably play either France or Brazil in the round of 16, which will be pretty tough for whoever finishes second. And even in first, I mean, even with Germany coming in first, they'll have to probably play either France or Brazil, which that is going to be a spicy game.
That's why it's so important when you look at the bracket and you start to then, beyond just the idea of, all right, this team finishes first in the group, this team finishes second, all that kind of thing. Like, I think what grabbed my attention the most is when you do start to pick things out and you do start to look at what can happen past that, as I'm pulling up my bracket to double check. It's very slanted on one side. Like, in my bracket for the U.S., for example, you get Argentina if they finish second in that group. Okay, you'll be a big favorite. Big favorite there. Then you could see Spain, and Spain and Norway could be a round of 16 game. Okay, that's difficult. We saw Spain take the U.S. to the limit last time around. That's difficult. Then Sweden in a semifinal is the way that I picked it out. But the other side, like, you've got a quadrant that could have an England-Canada round of 16 game, and those are two teams that could win the tournament, and a Germany-France round of 16 game. Or Germany-Brazil. Like, that's two teams that could win the tournament. And then the winners of that play in a quarterfinal. I think what jumps out to me when you really start to look forward as to, okay, not just this team's good enough to win the tournament, but what's the pathway? Australia's pathway is wonderful. You're looking at potentially Denmark in the round of 16. you'll be favored.
Yeah.
Then either Brazil or France in a quarterfinal, whoever came in second in that group, or no, first in that group, sorry. Um,
That'll be
tough,
yeah.
tough but doable.
Yeah.
Tough but doable, I think, for
It'll be challenging.
Australia. And then you're looking at a semifinal. And I mean, what I have in my bracket picked out is US and Sweden on one side of the bracket in the semifinal, and Australia and England in the other semifinal.
Mm. And who do you think is going to win it all if you had to decide today?
It's funny. I would not have said this before I actually went through the bracket. I would have said that the US is not going to do it a third time in a row. But when you look at the bracket, I think it's really friendly to this US team, and they should grow through the tournament. And you've got to you get that Netherlands game in the group stage. That's fine. I think you then get a pathway where it ramps up to get to the final. It's not going to be too much too soon. You're not going to face a team that I think should scare you.
Mhm.
You're going to face teams that will test you more each time around, but get to the final. And I have a U.S. England final,
Mm.
and go back to the semifinal last time around. England outplayed the U.S. in that game.
Yeah.
But the difference was that competitiveness that the U.S. had, and I think handling the moment. Now, this is a younger team, but I think potentially a better team for the U.S. I think this is the tournament where you have to have one of these young breakout stars. I know Rose Lavelle
Yeah.
was that in the last tournament. She was great, but she wasn't carrying
Mhm.
things. I think in this tournament, you're gonna need Julie Ertz in these big games. And if you don't have that, you're not gonna get here.
Mhm.
But I think to win the tournament, you're gonna need to have a breakout golden ball level performance from Sophia Smith or Trinity Rodman.
Mhm.
And it could be both. They're
Yeah.
they're both good enough, and that might be your starting duo up top alongside Alex Morgan. That's what I keep kind of coming back to. But to get there, those are the two potential game changers for this team, in my opinion. And you're going to need at least one of them to be, if not the best player in the tournament, in that conversation to win it. And I think they're both capable.
Mhm. And I know where with this U.S. team, there's this is a general mix of like the old guard veterans in Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan. You also have Kelly O'Hara is in it in this roster as well, with some new guards or new players that have less than or have single digit caps for this team. How do you think the overall roster is structured? Like, do you think that the big what do you think the big hurdle is for them?
I think it's defensively. I mean, it's just you're not as stable defensively as you'd like to be without Becky Sauerbrunn, and that's going to be the biggest question. But Naomi Girma has been one of the top young players coming through. She has 15 caps. Alana Cook has been expected to get to this level. She has 24 caps. That's likely your center back duo. You have Emily Sonnet, who can drop in there if needed, and I mentioned Julie Ertz could become that center back if you need it. And that's going to be the question for Vlatko Andonovski. I
Yeah.
mean, I think the biggest thing about this U.S. team coming into this tournament that is different is the unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
Is if you had the final tomorrow, what would be the starting 11? I don't know what he's going to write down.
Yeah.
And that can be good. And I think we saw in 2015 that the list coming into the tournament wasn't the right one. And Jill Ellis kind of had to figure it out, kind of got forced to figure it out with injuries and suspensions, and then settled on that group and then rode that group all the way through to the final. And they just developed so nicely in that tournament. I think in this tournament for Vlatko, you've got to get that right. And you've got 3 games to figure it out.
Yeah.
If you are worried about Cook or Germa, you've got to put Julie Ertz at center back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's doable because you have midfielders, you have Andy Sullivan, and I think more importantly, you have Christy Mewis,
Mm-hmm.
who can be that holding midfielder if needed. I think they're better with Ertz in the midfield, but if you have to play her as a center back because one of your young center backs is shaky,
Yeah.
then you've got to make that call in the group stage, get Ertz games, and get your midfield pairing. I mean, you don't want to have to drop Lindsey Horan deeper.
Yeah.
You'd like for Mewis or Sullivan to be that 6
Mm-hmm.
if it's not Ertz,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got to make that decision somewhat soon. And the Dutch game might be the game that is the okay, we're going to be good at center back. This is what we're going to roll with, or whoa,
Yeah.
we've got to make a change. And he's got to be decisive in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that I think is times as a manager where you have time to build. And the Olympics last time around was weird for him. He was really stuck in between generations, and he didn't get to incorporate the young players as much as he had planned in the build up to that tournament. So it was during COVID as well. So all kinds of things. It wasn't a good tournament.
Mm-hmm.
For Vlatko, everything has been based on defending the World Cup title.
Yeah.
And now you're at a point where the tinkering is over. And I don't think it's not his fault because you're missing Sauerbrunn. It's not his fault that he doesn't have his true 11 nailed down. But he's got to figure it out as soon as possible. And I think after the Dutch game, that is the time of this group is good. This is what we're going to roll with. Or I got to make a change, and I got to give the group that I'm going to roll with the game against Portugal to get it sorted out. He's got to make that decision in the back 5, the back line and the 6.
Yeah.
That's what he's got to get settled, and he's got to make a decision and stick with it one way or another. And I know it's easy at that point, like, you move Ertz the center back after the Netherlands game, and it doesn't look great against Portugal. It's easy to then say, well, I need to switch it again. I think you got to go in with what you think it's going to be, test it against the Dutch. If you like it, stick with it. If you don't, then you've got to make the change there and make one change and go.
Yeah. And with this, I mean, of course, it's kind of too late to switch anything with the rosters now. But
the roster is what it is.
Do you think that were there any omitted players from this roster, like not like within, or like, of course, like don't count players that are injured and can't play, but like, were there any omitted players that you think should or kind of unfortunate not to be called up and could have been there in replace of another player?
I don't think there's anything that dramatically makes a change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Taylor Korniak is one who we've seen a good bit. She's had some injuries, so not surprised. Mitch Purse has had some injuries, not surprised. I mean, if the one that you're really looking for that would be the biggest surprise, maybe is Ashley Hatch.
Yeah.
But you have so many attacking options that, I mean, like, could she be the 9 if it's not Morgan? I think the 9 is Morgan. And if for some reason something happens with Morgan, you've got all kinds of possibilities of what you can do up top. I think you probably needed the extra cover defensively. So instead of taking Hatch over one of the other forwards, I don't think was the right call either. I think the roster is what it needed to be. I don't think there's anything that should have been done differently.
Okay. What do you think of on the defensive side? The only one that was kind of omitted that was somewhat of a surprise for some people was Casey Kruger. Do you think she could have had a shout to be in there?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Club's not playing well, and that probably is a big reason. Could have played all over the back line. The versatility would have been the good thing about it. But I think with that club form and just where they are, probably the right group is here. And you get into a situation too sometimes where once you've made the decision to either, and I think this is where Vlatko is. I think, okay, your center backs are going to be this. This is the possible fullback rotation. This is my plan B. You almost don't want to bring in somebody who complicates that and makes it even more of a headache of, well, now it could be this, and I could play Casey Kruger as a fullback or as a center back if I needed it. I could do that. Then it's too much. I think you have to narrow down your decisions, and choosing a roster for a World Cup is difficult, and there's always somebody on the outside who has a legitimate claim. I think Hatch is the more legitimate claim, but it's a little bit of a numbers game. I think it's similar numbers game with Kruger, but the biggest thing is just
Yeah,
Chicago hasn't been very good.
got you. Yeah. So I mean, it is with the United States being or defending the Women's World Cup, and they won in 2015, 2019. If they do not win this World Cup, what do you think chances for Vlatko's future with this team?
You make a change. I mean, it's nothing personal. It's not that, he can have a good tournament as a coach and
Mhm.
they could come up short. Like
Yeah.
that's the nature of it. I think we have this mentality at times when we talk about the game in this country to where, like, if you don't win, it's a failure.
Mhm.
No, it's not a failure. I can't remember who it was. It was Giannis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Giannis. Where, I
Yeah.
mean, no, it's not a failure. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
difficult. It's not easy to win. And if the U.S. doesn't win, it doesn't mean that Vlatko failed. It
Mhm.
just probably means that you're going to make a change, though,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I think in general, you should be a one cycle manager. And I
Mhm.
know in the women's game, like, that's not quite as common.
Yeah.
You see more managers stick around for a longer period of time, but I think the women's game is getting closer to the men's game in the way that a calendar will flow.
Yeah.
And you need different voices because the national team and the women's game is undergoing this transformation to where the club game is getting more important, and it
Yeah.
needs to be more important
Yeah.
because that's where players develop. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big next step for the US, by the way, is I
Yeah.
think at times the club performances are
Going to matter.
secondary to the national team, whether it's coming back to the club after a tournament or missing club games, or
Mhm.
that's got to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
That, that that
'Cause-
has to change. It has to be a big change because the clubs are where the young players are going to develop. And I think we see it with this U.S. women's national team.
yeah.
So when that happens and you have fewer time with the national team, we're not going to schedule all these friendlies and
Yeah.
tours like we've typically done,
Yeah.
then the manager's role changes. It's not a developer role. It is a pick the best players, have a style and a philosophy that is easy for them to adapt to and come into and walk in the door to, and be a great motivator.
Hmm.
And that's what you have to pick. And I think when you talk about those skills, that's a shorter shelf life, and that's okay. That's again, it's the nature of it.
Yeah.
You're with a team for a cycle, you get them qualified for a World Cup, you go as far as you can in that World Cup, and then you move on.
Yeah.
And I think Vlatko's a very good manager, and he was the right hire for this team because they needed a new change in style of play. They needed to adapt. They were too, I think, stuck in the older ways, and 2019 was a little bit of an example of that. Like, they went as far as they could on just having the best players.
Hmm.
Now you've got to be tactical. You've got to be able to do some things tactically to beat teams that are on your level, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of teams on the US's level now.
Yeah.
I think Vlatko is the right hire to help this group get to that.
Hmm.
And if he wins the World Cup, okay, cool. He wants to stick around and the Federation wants to have him come back. That's great. If they don't win the World Cup, I think it's handshake and move on.
Hmm.
And that, again, it's not because it's a failure. It's just because that's the nature of being a national team manager.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? So, yeah, with the I agree with your point definitely with the club structure, club sides being having to have a more of an importance and emphasis because just looking at the let's say like the statistics for a lot of not just I mean this is not just for the women's U.S. women's national team but a lot of women's soccer teams throughout the world because there's not hasn't been as much investment but yeah, you have a lot of national teams where players have had more caps for their national teams in club games.
Yeah.
And yeah, there has to be more investment so that players can develop, and then there'll be more of a kind of a better. I think will be better competition to see. Okay, you're in better form with your club team. Oh, you've actually have a I don't know 20 to 30 game club season. Okay, see how consistent you are instead of playing 10 friendlies in a year and just get picked based on that.
The investment in the game long term that is sustainable is going to
Yeah.
come from the club game.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from clubs making money and reinvesting it in developing players. That's where it's going to come from. You're going to get money that gets pumped into it from federations, and you're going to need that, especially now, to kickstart things. It's critical. but long term, it can't be a charity play from the federation to just
Yeah.
give money to do something. It's got to be a sustainable business. The sustainable business is going to come from the club game.
Hmm. Couple more things I wanted to talk about. Who is your pick for the dark horse of this tournament as far as team goes? Who do you think? Let's say outside of like a traditional powerhouse of U.S. and France, who do you think could make a surprise quarterfinal or even semifinal run if they have the
I mean, I've got Sweden and Australia in the semifinals, and I guess they would qualify for that,
Mhm.
honestly, because neither one have won a World Cup. They're probably, although Australia being at home, and
Yeah.
that's a little bit of the wild card with what could happen with them. But I think it's those two. I mean, outside of that, I don't know if there's anybody who's going to get into that top 8, 10 that would be an absolute shock. I
Mhm.
mean, my final 8, for example, it's Spain, it's the US, it's Japan, it's Sweden, it's England, it's France, it's Australia, and it's Brazil. I think Canada is good enough to get there. The matchup is what hurts them. I think Germany is good enough to get there. I think the matchup in the knockout round hurts them. That's 10.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody outside of that can get to the semifinal. Like I said, I think Zambia will be a team you'll want to watch because I think they'll be a fun team to watch because they're going to just go all out in attack. Um, I think Portugal will be one to watch as they've developed maybe really quickly compared to some others. I think for me, Colombia will be fun to watch
Yeah.
because I want to see if they're as physical and intimidating as the Irish were claiming it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them from the last tournament. They're a difficult team. They're not going to be easy to beat. Argentina, kind of same thing. They're going to be difficult to break down. They're going to be difficult to beat, but there's just such a gap in terms of quality. I think Sweden and Australia are maybe the biggest surprises out of that group of 10 for me that are teams to watch.
Mm. And if you had to choose one player, I know that's going to be tough, but if you had to choose one player to really keep an eye on, that this is going to be probably a breakout star that we'll hear for the next quite while, like who would that be?
Trinity Rodman.
Mm.
I've said it for a long time. I think she could be the best player that the U.S. women's national team has ever had. I think she's got that kind of potential. She's still so young,
Mm-hmm.
um, but she just has a game that there's not many players that do. I think she could be the one that everybody is talking about afterwards. And yeah, look, her last name does
Yeah.
help. I mean, it's gonna get some people's attention who might not follow the team super closely. It's going to get attention. That's gonna help her, but her play is what's gonna separate her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's an incredible player. So I think it's Trinity Rodman. I do think Barbara Banda has
Yeah.
some potential
Yeah.
though. With if she scores a boatload of goals early in this tournament, yeah, a lot of people could start talking about her. Bunny Shaw is another one who I think people talked about a little bit after the last tournament and the build up to it. That's another one from an underdog kind of team. Ella Toon and Lauren James are two others that I keep coming back to from the English side to
Mm-hmm.
watch for. But I think Trinity Rodman has the potential to be a worldwide household name by the end of the tournament.
All right. Cool. Yeah, all right. So we kind of wrapped up all the groups, your predictions for the knockout stages and kind of who you see winning the whole thing. I figure maybe so the tournament starts tomorrow, it goes for a month, ends August 20th. So I might try to hit you up after the tournament's over, kind of do a recap if
Yeah.
that sounds cool. But yeah, Jason, I appreciate you having the time this evening to appear on Soccerpedia. So
Yeah, if you're out there listening, we're gonna have a lot of coverage of the Women's World Cup on 92.9 The Game,
yeah,
on radio and on Off the Woodwork, where you get your 92.9 The Game soccer podcast.
yeah.
Myself and Jessica Charman, we did a World Cup preview that posted on Off the Woodwork. I had an interview that posted today with Jonas Eidevall, the
Mm,
manager of Arsenal, speaking about his predictions for the tournament. He picked England to win it, by the way. Um, some good stuff there already. We're going to be on air on Friday and again on Wednesday after the US game from 11 to 12 p.m. as a post-game show and breaking everything down from the first 2 US games. And we're going to have more on-air coverage as well around the US games, depending on times and if they advance as a group winner or second place and how that looks. So make sure you're following me at Longshoot on social media, and I'll keep you posted on all that. But definitely give Off the Woodwork a subscribe and follow button and check out that content as well.
Sweet. Cool, cool, cool. Oh, one final question is, if out of all the players that are not at this World Cup because of injury or if their country didn't qualify, which player would you wanted to have seen the most?
Oh, wow. Let me think for a second.
Sorry, that was kind of a last minute.
No, it's okay. A player that I've always really liked is Fran Kirby. That's one that comes to mind. I mean, obviously Becky Sauerbrunn and just what she's been to the U.S. women's national team. Mallory Swanson, for the U.S. perspective, is one who, I mean, it's a crowded attacking group, and it would have been if she was part of it as well, but she was in such good form earlier in the year before she got hurt. She might have kept Sophia Smith or Trinity Rodman off the field. Like it's a big loss for her after missing out the last time around. Those are a couple off the top of my head. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. I'm sure there's plenty that I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
Also, from the Netherlands.
Yeah, definitely. And God, what's the other one I'm drawing a blank on? Because there's been so many injuries with the knee, especially, that is a problem. And it's something that, we were talking about the investment in the club game. I think the investment in the research, is it just the physical difference between males and females and hips? And that's what I've always heard over the years as to why women are more susceptible to ACL tears. Is it something else?
Yeah.
Invest in the research. And I think also the clubs have to invest in the sports science department like the men do to track this stuff and make sure that they're doing the right workloads for the players, because the workload's increased. And I don't know if that's factored into the injuries or not, but it's something that they have to really take the time to do. We have this conversation. We did it before the men's World Cup of, the best 11 of players who are injured. Like, we always do that because it always happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just bad luck. This one maybe feels a little bit more, and a lot of the same injury with the ACL. So I hope that they can figure out, is it preventable? What can be done to prevent it, and what can be done to get players back as soon as possible?
Absolutely. But yeah, thanks for that last minute question. But yeah, thank you very much, Jason, for appearing on the Soccerpedia podcast, and we'll hope for a really good World Cup.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. Take care.
You too.